everybody. I think we're ready to begin. My name is Alex Butchart. I'm the coordinator for the Prevention of Violence at the World Health Organization. And it's my honor and pleasure to be the chair of today's session. That said, I immediately hand over for command of this first welcoming and introduction session to Professor Manuel Eisner. Manuel.
So thank you very much. It's such a great pleasure to see things actually happening. Everyone who's organised the conference will know that this is the moment of truth when people are actually here. It's a great pleasure to welcome you. As you know, it's a conference organised jointly by the Violence Prevention Unit of the WHO and the Institute of Criminology at the University of Cambridge. The conference is called Global Strategies to Reduce Violence by 50% over the next 30 years. And it comes at a quite a unique juncture of time. Probably many of you know that in May this year, the World Health Assembly adopted a resolution which called its members to adopt health policies to reduce violence reduction, to support violence reduction in particular against women and girls and against children. And we're currently in the midst of discussions about the post-2015 development goals. And there is a good chance that there will be violence reduction goals, including in the new post-2015 development agenda. And the current draft says they want to achieve peaceful and inclusive societies, have access to justice for all, and effective and capable institutions. So that this conference takes place in the middle of all these events was not planned. When I initially started thinking about this 3 years ago, it seemed to me like a just absolutely weird idea. And so I was very grateful when I came to talk to Patricia 2 years ago and said, well, this might be an idea for a conference. And they said, okay, that sounds a bit strange and a bit ambitious, but let's try. And then WHO joined in and also said, well, that sounds like a good idea. We could as well try. And so it now happens. We're in the midst of several movements coming together, and there is this momentum gathering, which I think we should try to make the best use of. This is an opportunity to actually put violence reduction globally on the top of the agenda and try to make a change. When we planned the conference, we had a number of goals in mind, and I just want to very briefly outline 3 of the goals. First of all, we wanted to bring together scholars, international organizations, civil society, and philanthropic bodies. And we wanted to identify the research we need, the knowledge we have, and the policy recommendations that we can make to achieve a long-term reduction of violence. And when you listen to the talks, one of the things to bear in mind is that we did ask speakers not to primarily talk about their own research, also about their own research, but we try to get them to go outside their comfort zone and to think about, well, what do they really think about what needs to be done in the next 10, 20, 30 years? Secondly, and I think that was another important thing, I had the impression, and maybe wrongly so, that there is a public health field that does things on violence prevention, and there is criminology, criminal justice field that is kind of like slightly separated. And one of the goals was to bring these fields together. And so that's the reason why we have talks about civil society, governance, criminal justice interventions, and punishment, because they're all part of this story. Thirdly, it was a very important goal for us to contribute to capacity building. And that's why we made a conscious effort, first of all, to invite speakers from low and middle income countries, but there was also the opportunity through a generous contribution by the Optimus Foundation to invite 20 junior scholars from low and middle income countries to attend the conference and to present posters. And I would like to extend a very special welcome to these junior scholars, because they are the future. They are the ones who will bring this forward, and they're going to be the next generation that has interesting and important ideas about what needs to be done. So I would like to conclude with saying that we really hope that all of you will have a great 2 days in this amazing environment. One of the things since I came to Cambridge, one of the things I learned since I came to Cambridge, now this is the kind of place where you run into so many people who are just having strange ideas about all kinds of things. And they're not afraid of having all these strange ideas. So I very much hope that over the next 2 days, part of this creative spirit of Cambridge affects you as well, and that we will come up with interesting ideas for the future. I would like to hand over to Jeremy Sanders, one of the 5 Pro-Vice Chancellors of the university.
Well, thank you very much, Manuel. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to Cambridge and to King's College on behalf of the university and the Vice-Chancellor. In my role as Pro-Vice-Chancellor, I'm responsible for policy and strategy in the area of human resources, which means the well-being of our 10,000 employees. And as Manuel says, many of those 10,000 employees do have very strange ideas. But they are also wonderful, wonderful people. And I have many other responsibilities as well. Back in 2009, I was responsible for organising the university's 800th anniversary celebration. So the university is several hundred years older than this college. The significance and the irony of that event for this conference is that this university was probably created in 1209. I mean, that's what we believe, as a result of some students fleeing a murder scene in Oxford. And they set up here in competition with Oxford. So we are actually here as perhaps a positive outcome of a very unpleasant piece of violence in Oxford in 1209. More seriously, in my spare time, I'm a professor of chemistry. So the topic of your conference is far from my area of professional expertise, but as an individual who's a concerned member of society, I'm acutely aware of the importance and the topicality of your discussions the next couple of days. The Vice-Chancellor and my senior colleagues take a very keen interest in the relationship between the university and wider society. The university's mission is to contribute globally through the pursuit of education, learning and research at the highest international levels of excellence. For us, this means not only serving as a leading research institution in the United Kingdom, and as many of you know, the future of the United Kingdom is being decided in a referendum in Scotland today. We're not only interested in the United Kingdom, we are a global institution, and this university has a global presence with few equals. Academically, we're organised into 6 schools, each of which in its different ways has a long-standing commitment to research that supports the United Nations Development Goals. And we've launched in recent years major initiatives to further this strategic priority. The Cambridge Conservation Initiative is a pioneering partnership between conservation organisations and many disciplines within the University of Cambridge, and it operates on a scale and with a breadth that is unparalleled, seeking to transform our understanding and the conservation of biodiversity across the whole world, and to secure a sustainable future for all life on Earth. Similarly, we have a strategic initiative in global food security, which is responding to one of the United Nations Millennium Goals. The university also provides world-class education for senior leaders in their field, helping to support global development goals. For example, the Cambridge Institute of Sustainability Leadership over the last 25 years has built strategic leadership capacity to tackle critical global challenges. The Institute of Criminology, which was founded by Leon Radzinovich in 1959, is one of the leading criminology departments in the world. From the beginning, its core mission has been to produce high-quality research that's shared with policymakers and practitioners with the aim of reducing crime. David Farrington, Friedrich Lascelles, Lawrence Sherman have been leaders in developing and firmly entrenching the notion of evidence-based prevention and intervention across the world. Scholars in the Institute have evaluated the effects of crime prevention measures as diverse as closed-circuit television, hotspot policing, offender rehabilitation programs, treatment of sex offenders, restorative justice, parenting interventions, and programs against school bullying. Members of the Institute played a leading role in the development of the Campbell Crime and Justice Collaboration, a worldwide network which promotes the best evidence on measures for crime prevention and control. Increasingly, this involves advisory work and training in low and middle income countries such as India, Uruguay, Trinidad, Ghana, and Chile. And the global mission of the Institute of Criminology is reflected in its teaching programs, which attract graduate students from over 80 countries. And I'll just mention specifically the Police Executive Program and the Cambridge Penology Program, which deliver part-time graduate courses for senior decision makers in police forces, prisons, probation services, and courts from around the world. These programs teach practitioners core research skills, enable them to understand and critically examine the current state of research in their field and promote better practice in their particular work environment. These are very successful courses and increasingly attract senior practitioners from low and middle income countries. So in conclusion, it's a great privilege for Cambridge to host such an important collaborative event with the World Health Organization. I wish a very productive meeting and hope that it will contribute to tackling one of the most pressing problems of mankind here in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
So I'm now handing over to Patricia.
Let's see. Okay. So I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the UBS Optimus Foundation. We may wonder why this picture is up there. These children could be beneficiaries of the foundation. We are a grant-making foundation that focuses on improving the lives of children by investing in education, health, and the prevention of violence. We're based in Switzerland, but that's not why that picture is up there. This is actually my sister and I. And as you can see from the very lovely matching outfits and our haircuts, it was in the early 80s. So when I was thinking about what to say today, and those who know me know that it's not my favorite thing to speak in front of a lot of people. So when I was thinking about what to say, I remembered a story that happened when my sister and I were about that age. So this is one of our beneficiaries. So it was at the family gathering. And traditionally, my sister and I would do a little performance, sing a song or do a little dance or play the flute or something. And that one year, my sister and I, we got up in front of everybody. And my sister, the little one, said, "Everybody get up." And so my grandparents and my grandfather's sister and my parents and my aunt and my uncle and my cousin, everybody got up. And then so we stood there and looked at everybody and looked at everybody a little bit more. And then my sister said, "Okay, you may sit down again now." And that was the end of the performance. So following my sister's example, I promise I will keep it very short. Not quite that short, because I would like to take the opportunity to express how excited I am to welcome all of these amazing thinkers and pioneers that have come together here in Cambridge to present new, innovative, and state-of-the-art ideas on how to effectively address the epidemic of violence over the next few decades. And I definitely would like to acknowledge and thank the team that has organized this extraordinary conference. It would not have happened without the remarkable commitment, strategic thinking, and wisdom of Professor Manuel Eisner. You have certainly exceeded all expectations, on all levels. I would also like to thank Alex Bouchard and Chris Mickton from WHO for their critical support in developing and organizing this conference. A very special thank you shall definitely also go to Manuel Eisner's fabulous assistant, Maria Krisch. Where are you? Hi, right there. Without you, we would have been lost so many times. Thank you. And a big thank you also to Mandy Lung and Livia Holm, who have come in at the end to support the final effort in making this conference happen. So I hope we will all be inspired by this conference and set a major milestone on the path of ending violence. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Etienne Krug, whom you've already met yesterday, and he will say a few words from the perspective of the World Health Organization and how this conference might fit into your plans.
Thanks, Manuel, and good morning to all. Jeremy, Manuel, Patricia, dear colleagues and friends. Last night I told you that I had found Harry Potter. Manuel. We got another confirmation of that this morning, because without ever seeing my speech, he gave you my speech. But we got an additional proof, because as you know, Harry Potter is kind of a half-baked magician. He only managed to give you the first 2 pages. So I have 2 pages left, which is what I'll focus on. But I'll put them aside, because I think I just have a few things I wanted to say. And first of all, it's a big thanks to Jeremy and Manuel for the fantastic hospitality. Last night we had a wonderful dinner, which really, I think, set the scene for an out-of-the-box conference. What we saw last night is totally unusual, and what we're going to try to do, I think, is totally unusual too. When I heard the initial ambition of this conference, which is to have violence over the next 30 years, I did think that there are weird people in the world, and that where's the science behind it? How are we going to do that? I guess this is what we're going to be discussing in the next 2-3 days. But I think it's a very ambitious and intelligent goal to have. This is something that could be possible if the world really mobilizes around that goal. And so it's up to us to convince the world that it's possible, it's doable, and how it can be done. That's certainly what I hope will come out of this conference. Manuel and Patricia and I were talking a little bit before the meeting started that we really have to make sure that this is not only another conference. Yes, it will get attention, a nice publication, but it should be more. And it can be more because, as Manuel said, it happens at a very strategic time. The World Health Assembly in May adopted this resolution that he mentioned, which asks governments, in which governments actually commit to do more to address violence, strengthen their health systems, but in a multi-sectoral approach to address violence in a better way. But it also asks WHO to develop a global plan of action on interpersonal violence, in particular against women and girls and children. This plan of action doesn't exist. We start from scratch right now, so the timing is perfect. We need the best minds in the world to help us shape this plan. It's a plan for WHO, it's a plan for all the governments of the world, which they will be discussing in regional meetings, in global meetings, and then hopefully in the end adopt in the World Health Assembly in 2 years in the annual meeting of Ministers of Health. So this is our chance. We've never been asked to do such a thing, and it's your chance to influence it. So I hope, in a way, we're beginning the thinking on this plan through this meeting, and that some of the deliberations and conclusions will feed into that. And then the plan also will happen at the same time, as Manuel said, as the discussions on the post-2015 development goals, which are the new Millennium Development Goals and will be directing development aid for the next 15 years. And for now, in the draft document, violence is very prominently featured. It talks about reducing homicides, it talks about eliminating violence against women, violence against children, it talks about addressing armed violence. Again, never before did the development agendas get so close to taking on board violence prevention. But the thinking stops largely there. What are the next steps if we get to having violence so well featured in these new goals? How are we going to address it? How are we going to measure our progress? What will be our more detailed targets and indicators to put in motion this? How are we going to help development agencies who haven't really focused very much yet on violence prevention in strengthening their programs to support violence prevention efforts? All of that is on the table, I think, for this conference and probably many other conferences to come. But I hope that in the deliberations, this will be taken into account. You will be bringing the science, you will be bringing our knowledge, but please go beyond that and let's try to synthesize it and steer it into a direction that will help us address these different agendas and help us move forward. The last element I wanted to mention is the Global Status Report on Violence Prevention, which, thanks to UBS Optimus Foundation and many of you, is getting finalized and should be launched on the 15th of December later this year. This report will be the first such report which basically looks at what happened with the World Report on Violence and Health from 2002 recommendations. Did countries put in place the legislation on violence against women, violence against children, sexual violence, youth violence, elder maltreatment, etc.? Do prevention programs exist? We know what the best buys are. Are they being implemented? What is the information on homicide rates? How many studies have been conducted on the different subtypes of violence? What kind of national plans are in place? All of that information has been collected. We wrote to all countries, and 134 have contributed, which represent more than 80% of the world's population. So it will give us a good baseline at the beginning of this new development goal era to start identifying some of the gaps and work on those. So again, I think things are coming in place. And as I was telling Manuel also just before we started, for me, one of the key things is to continue bridging between the slightly separate field of criminology and public health. We in public health have for years been claiming that our role is to collect data, is to set the norms and standards, is to support countries, is to focus on prevention. And then when I hear the criminology field speak, I hear exactly the same. We are doing the same things, we're just not saying it in the same way. And I hope that through the dialogue that builds on some previous dialogues, but really emerges more here, we'll be able to set in motion additional ways of working together, which I think will be so important if we want to achieve success in the years ahead and have violence in the next 30 years. So let me finish by thanking UBS Optimus again for the support, thanking Jeremy and his fantastic team for all the hard work in getting this together, thanking my colleagues also, Alex and Chris, who unfortunately could not be here for all the preparations, as well as Claudia for being here, and looking forward to the debate. Thanks very much.